Today we will talk about high and low power distant cultures. If you met Derek Jeter, would you communicate with him differently? This is something that students in SCOM 123 have struggled with in the past. Throughout this video, we will use examples from society and pop culture. Today we will go over what is culture, what is power distance, what is the difference between low and high power. All of these questions are essential in answering the question, how does power distance impact communication? This is important to understand because in America, there are people of all different cultures. JMU, you study abroad, people from JMU come from all over, so let's just dive right in. First, we will talk about culture. Culture is a lot of things, and it's really hard to define in one definition. The book says, culture is a learned set of enduring values, beliefs, and practices that are shared by an identifiable large group of people with a common history. It also says that culture wires the brain. So you might be wondering how this relates to communication, because you might be thinking about your personal experience with culture, something you do with your family. But this relates to communication because culture always impacts the way we communicate. Culture is always present and it's not always seen. Now we will move on to something that is prevalent every day and something you might be able to see. Power is the variation in the unequal distribution of power in relationships. This can be in institutions as well as organizations. How would you, a JMU student, communicate with President Alger? Would you try and sound extremely smart? Would you try and talk to him about the classes that you're taking? This is an example of how power is in a specific situation. Power can be unequal because it's not always earned. Think about a relationship like you and your parent or you and your grandparent. It also is seen in institutions. Like you versus a professor, you refer to them as doctor or professor, rather than saying like, hey Steve, which is what they're allowed to call you. Or in an organization, if you are a member of a sorority or a fraternity or a sport or in the band, the people who are higher up have specific power over you and they can make decisions that govern your involvement. In the beginning of this video, I asked if you would treat Derek Jeter any differently than you would treat someone else. This is called power difference. Do we treat people in power differently, and do they deserve that special treatment? Should we communicate with people in power differently? The book asks if Bill Gates deserves special treatment. And I think this is important to discuss the way power and culture of the United States have impacted the way we treat people in specific positions differently. You might be wondering how power and culture actually do impact communication, as I brought up in the last slide. Well, think about it this way. In specific cultures, eye contact is not really something that we give. Smiling is not something that is really done. The way conversations occur, such as you might not be having a conversation with one of your students until after class, whereas in the United States, students often work together to communicate and complete projects. And who can speak also is impacted by culture. In some cultures, females are not allowed to have an opinion in some things. Also, children. While power can impact the types of conversations that occur, such as one of the students in my course who came from Kenya talks about how he wasn't allowed to really talk to his professors and ask questions because of that power difference. Power distance. This is something students definitely get confused about. So, power distance is just how people belonging to a specific culture view power relationships. So, why is this so important? Because power distance exists in all cultures, and power is something that defines it. Now we will talk about low-distance cultures. In low-distance cultures, values are relatively equal power sharing, and they discourage attention to status of difference and ranking in society. If you think about Sweden, they are a low power distance culture. They allow men to take paternity leave. Pay is pretty equal for men and women, and there's really no emphasis on power. Also, this is called horizontal because if you think about it, power exists on a horizontal level. It's evenly distributed. On the flip side, the high power distance cultures have a strong emphasis on power. If you think about it, the United States definitely has a strong emphasis on this. We call our leader president. We call someone who is older than us, who might have more power, sir or ma'am. We call doctors or anyone who has a PhD, Dr. so and so. So we have so much emphasis on this power difference in the United States. So you might be wondering, why is this vertical? And if you think about it, power moves on a vertical level from the bottom up. So you might be thinking, why is this important? It's important because as communicators, we need to understand how the words we choose or the power relationships we're in have certain implications on our culture. And we should be mindful that sometimes people who are in lower power or higher power do not deserve special treatment. So, today we went over what is power, what is culture, what is power difference, and what is the difference between high and low power cultures. I hope that this was helpful. Have a great day.